What's up, YouTube? This is your boy Alex. Today is Friday. As you can see, I am at the Grove, where there's some shade, so obviously you may not be able to see me in direct. So basically, I got two videos that I'm going to do back to back. The first video is going to be about television and film, but particularly film. And then, depending on how good and how well received the video is, I'm going to make a spin-off about African American screenwriters, because nobody knows how many screenwriters there are in television and film, particularly in Hollywood. And then I got to do one for women, because it just wouldn't sound right if I just left the women out and made it all about the men, and then people attack me for being biased and sexist when that's not true. Then the second one is going to be pretty much close to the last one in the series of the sports series. There's only going to be one more video after that one, but I'm not going to drop the fourth and final video in the sports series until like maybe close to when the NBA playoffs start, because I want to get all of the basketball predictions out of the way so I can get back to original content, because I have a fan base that just likes when I talk about television and film and life situation problems. And we're going to drop the other videos on my other sports channel. I have someone that subscribed, so I have to say thank you to the person that subscribed to my sports channel, my new sports channel. It's because of people like you that I do sports and videos like this. You give me the motivation and the confidence to get on camera and make these videos. Not everybody likes me making videos. I already have an idea for that video. You guys gonna have to wait maybe in a week or two so I can write out the script to that one. That one's gonna be why people react to the name titles of movies and television shows, so I can explain, the hypocrisy behind that and what is that going to reveal. It might take a week or two for it, but this one is the return of the second, or in this case, season 2 of the series. This one's going to be called Sex Game, the top 8 screenwriters in film. And I should actually put television, but we'll figure something out for the second and third video in that new series that we just started. All right, now this one's going to be about screenwriters. Now, some of these people, when I say their names, you know who they are, and then some of you might not even know that these people are film producers, film directors, but they also became screenwriters. Some started their careers first as a producer or as a screenwriter first before they became a director in television and film. And keep in mind, if this is a very well received video, you will get a highly anticipated part 2 and part 3. When I do those videos, it's because they get good critical reception. A bad critical reception is when somebody, doesn't like your video. And I'm going to actually make another video later in the week called what's the difference between critical reception on the internet versus critical reception in person. Because I feel like there's a lot that I can explore in the world of filmmaking. I only touched the surface. You might have seen like 30, 40 videos and think I've already got to the end. This is like a world where you can just keep exploring and exploring filmmaking. All right, coming in at number 8 is Peter Jackson. He's a well-respected Hollywood film director. He did graduate from high school and college on top of his class, and he did break into Hollywood the old-fashioned way. He wrote a screenplay, and then one day he started doing these movies, these documentaries that nobody knew about, and then he started doing featured films, short films, and then finally they wanted someone to come in and direct a book into a film, and you know the name of the book when you hear it, Lord of the Rings. He made the mythology work. He was one of the writers who wrote the original trilogy of Lord of the Rings 1, 2, and 3, and then to come back and give you the second installment of 3 films, 3 plus 3 is 6, to give you the Hobbits. And he actually produced, written, and directed those films that are loved by all people. And now there's talks about doing a revised television version of, Lord of the Rings, because it did so good on film. People want to see what would happen if you did it like in the realm of television. Now, Peter Jackson doesn't get a lot of respect and a lot of credit like a lot of people don't give him. I mean, he's done a lot of movies. He did a reboot of King Kong. Now, I know people are going to say it ain't the King Kong that we got with Legendary Pictures, but he did try to give us close to the interpretation, and he does try to write out the process for the movie. So he's directed some big blockbuster feature films. He's done The Hobbits, Lord of the Rings, King Kong. He's done a lot of good films. It's just unfortunate that he never got picked to do some of these newer films. Like all your little Star Wars movies, Peter Jackson could have directed one of those if he was asked. Like when you think about TV shows like Game of Thrones, he could actually create a television show that is similar to that. And he is a good director. I mean, he's a good screenwriter as he is a good film director. But a lot of people just know him for directing and on an occasion being the producer of his films, respectively. But screenwriting is another skill that he has in his arsenal, and he's very multi-talented. It's just unfortunate nobody looks at Peter Jackson and gives him the critical respect that he gets. He won an Oscar because he did Lord of the Rings, but he doesn't get as many opportunities today like he should. It's like he's being overlooked in every category that you possibly can think of, which is actually kind of sad. You know, you have all this talent and people just overlook it. Coming in at number 7 is Tyler Perry, another person that should get a whole lot of respect and credit. When he couldn't get nobody to produce, write, direct his feature plays, because they were plays before they being made into movies and TV shows like Medea Goes to Jail, Medea Goes to Jail Part 2, Why Did I Get Married, Why Did I Get Married Part 2. All of those were theater plays, and then they got made into feature films, and then later made into television shows and sequels, respectively. And people in the African American community can look up to Tyler Perry when it comes to his filmmaking skills, because the guy knows how to use a camera. The guy knows how to tell a story. He can write a story, and a lot of people just look at his directing skills and him being a producer, but they overlook the fact that he also writes his screenplays. He writes his scripts. All those plays, he wrote those. And later on, when he finally made it big, he continued to follow that platform. So he showed you that you can come into the industry, break in, get taken serious, get respect at 100%, and produce, write, and direct your own stuff if you have a hard time getting somebody to write some good material for you. And I feel like people overlook that aspect of Tyler Perry because they go, well, he's known for his directing. He's known for his acting. And sometimes when he writes some good material, he makes other actors around him much more better. You know, he's helped careers. He's revived people's careers in film. When people couldn't get no work, Tyler Perry was the guy that stepped in and helped a lot of actors revive their career. When Michael J. White had a hard time getting phone calls, they say go to Tyler Perry, and Tyler Perry hooked up Michael J. White, put him up on game. You know, some of the inspiration from that is how he got Black Dynamite. You know, there were a lot of actresses, a lot of actors that started in the 80s and the 90s, and they weren't getting no work in the 2000s, and Tyler Perry came in there and put them up on game and helped their careers blossom. And when he writes some good material for actors and actresses, he's on the same level as Spike Lee, but people don't see that. They just see that he's good for comedy, and it's not that he can just write comedy. He can write some serious dramatic stuff. Like for Color Girls, yeah, he wrote that. You know, he literally sat in the studios and basically took his time with that film. That's why it was so successful. Coming in at number 6 is Oilver Stone. If y'all seen a movie called Scarface, he wrote the script. Now, some of people thought he should have directed, but at that time, he was known for producing on an occasion and his good screenwriting skills. And at that time, nobody thought he could even direct a feature film. And when they asked how come you didn't direct it, because he kind of had the same problem that Sylvester Stallone had in Hollywood, that if you write the script, it becomes the studio, and then someone else becomes the director. Like, the way he wrote it is exactly the way you saw it being filmed. And normally, when they do a movie or a television show, the director is going to direct it his style, opposed to when a screenwriter writes a script and says, the way I've written it is the way it should be filmed. It wasn't until much later in his career that he started filming some big blockbuster movies that he started filming the films the way that he wrote his scripts. That came much later, like in the late 80s, early 90s, when he became a big draw at the box office. You know, you look at your Christopher Nolans, you look at your Michael Bays, he kind of came before they came. And he kind of set the tone for what you should be as a screenwriter, and then he became a director, and then he showed that he could do both. He could be a good director as good as he writes screenplays. I mean, it took a while before somebody acknowledged Oliver Stone's a good film director as he is as a screenwriter. It took a lot longer for it to actually happen. All right, coming in at number 5 is Michael Mann. A lot of people do not know who he is, but you've seen his movies and his television shows, and he has this one masterpiece that I did talk about 2 weeks ago, and it's called Film Noir. Remember that video that I made, Film Noir? Remember a movie called Heat with Al Pacino and Robert De Niro? Yeah, he was the one who suggested that they get two of the biggest actors at that time. It was Robert De Niro, Al Pacino. For almost 10 years, people was like, one of these two great legends are going to, come face to face on camera. And he was the one that kind of kicked off that whole thing. Because later on, like a year and a half later, we would get a movie called Face Off with Nicolas Cage and John Travolta, because we had a movie called Heat from 2 years earlier that kind of said, take two of the biggest actors that we got and let's see what happens on screen. They created a masterpiece. Heat is by far one of the best crime element dramas that you'll ever see on film. Good movie, good compelling story. He was able to take two characters, good versus bad, and show the consequences of the actions of man. What happens when a man crosses that line, and what happens when you can't go back after you cross that line. And a guy in the prime of his career that is looking for that one chance to seek redemption. Basically, that's what I get when I watch how he directed. Like, he got to produce, write, and direct this feature film, and it was a big hit, and it launched a lot of careers. You had Val Kramer in that movie. You had Robert De Niro. You had Ashley Judd. You had Natalie Portman in that movie. It was a big, successful hit. Some people thought Heat should have spun off a sequel or sequels or a television show. I'm pretty sure there's ideas for it now, but at that time, they never had nobody do it the way that he done it. Like, to actually have full range and the trust in his ability to write the script and then film it the way as he write it. Like, it's hard to do that. As of right now, today, for television and film, it's hard to do that. To write a script and then film it the way as you intend it to be. You have to be very good at pulling that off. Steven Spielberg is one of the legends that is good at doing it. Coming in at number 4 is my man, Denzel Washington. He should be rated much higher than this. He is another person who did all of it. He didn't just do acting in television and film. He went way beyond, okay? My man Denzel Washington is like the Michael Jordan of this shit, okay? He took it a step further than you expected. He produced, written, directed, and acted in a movie called Anton Fisher, based on a true story. Basically, he took on that project, and it took him almost 20 years to get that project off the ground because a lot of people didn't want to touch that movie. A lot of people did not want to write that story, produce, direct. And when they heard that he was going to take his own money and create his own production company and do it, Denzel was like, well, if, a certain living legend can pull it off like Kevin Costner when he did Dancing with Wolves, well, I'm going to do mine. And Anton Fisher became a big, successful kid because Denzel was able to show you that he could produce, write out the script, direct, and then turn around and act in the feature film, and then make it successful and make it get number 1 at the box office. It's like one of his best movies ever, and he gives out a Oscar-worthy performance. And some people felt that should have been the year he should have gotten an Oscar. Of course, we know it would have been like maybe 4 or 5 more years than he did Trinity, and then he got the Oscar. But some people felt, you produce, you write, you direct, you act, that was where he should have gotten his Oscar. And tell you the truth, he should have got at least 2 or 3 Oscars because he put his heart into that video. I'm that video movie. He put his heart into the video because there's a video documentary of the movie, and then there's the movie. And even when he didn't even have to promote the movie, he did it himself. And even when he didn't have as much money available, he made it work. Most actors today wouldn't even go to the range that Denzel did. Denzel took it so far that he's like right there with Spike Lee. Like if you ask Spike Lee how good his timing is on producing, writing, and directing, Spike Lee will look at you and say, Denzel is Denzel for a reason. Denzel make everything look good. All right, coming in at number 3 is Spike Lee tied with Ryan Coogler. Now you probably might be like, why are they tied at number 3? See, Spike Lee came in a period where there weren't that many filmmakers, African American, doing television and film. He came in, he kicked ass, he took names, he made it work. He did a lot of movies, Do the Right Thing, Get on the Bus, She Hates Me. You know, he did a lot of movies. And to me, when he makes these movies, they're concepts that work because he's actually showing you the world in a different perspective. Not just black and white or old or new. He tries to show you in a perspective where you actually got to sit down when you get off of work and actually reflect about your life. Like, that's how good Spike Lee is. He's good at getting you to sit down